Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to you all. In the last video, we looked at deploying smart contracts to the testnet, Kairos testnet. In this video, we're talking about smart contract testing, basically. So usually it's advisable to test your smart contract before deploying to production, right? In this case to mainnet. So take for instance for traditional application, when there are bugs or issues, you can easily push, upgrade or new fixes and redeploy your application. But in the case of smart contracts, it's not so because once the smart contract is deployed to the mainnet, right, it is immutable. And so usually it is advisable to write tests to basically ensure that your contract code is secure and prone from vulnerabilities, right? So this is like a major essence of writing tests. Okay, so like I've rightly said, some of the reasons for writing tests is basically one, error detection, helps you to identify and fix error in your Solidity code. Second is to ensure security. So you want to be able to identify vulnerabilities in your contract and ensure that it is prone from hackers, right? Increase reliability, save time and money. So usually you don't want your protocol to be wrecked and thousands or millions of dollars are being like siphoned out of your protocol. And one way to stay safe is to write tests for your smart contracts. So usually there are different types of testing method. We have unit tests. So unit tests basically helps us to test the individual unit of your code. Take for instance each of your functions, right? So you test them independently if they work according to what they're expected to do. And we also have integration test. Integration test is basically testing all of the moving parts of your code, right? The whole contract system. And so basically integration test is an end-to-end test. You're basically testing all of the business logic, all of the moving parts of your code. So having said that, how do we actually test our smart contract, right? So depending on the development environment you're using, there are various options and various methods. And so take for instance, you can write tests in your Remix, you can write tests in Adapt and also Foundry. And so for a start, we'll be looking at writing tests in Remix. So let's quickly head over to Remix. So for this guide, we'll basically be writing a unit test for our simple storage dot sol. So what we want to test is when the user click on the set person function, it should basically check that the actual values being imputed are actually being set at the end of the day. So the first thing to do is to head over to plugin and basically search for test. Right, so this helps us write and run unit tests for our smart contract in Solidity. So we're going to activate this and go over to this tab. All right, so basically we have the test interface now. Let's generate this just generates a boilerplate for our test. So now I want to write unit test for our simple storage. And what we basically want to do is to first inherit the simple storage contract here. Okay, so having done that, the next thing we want to do is to declare an instance of the simple storage contract, right? We set it to simple storage, basically. Also, we need an account, so we'll call this address account one. So now let's actually now set this simple storage to the instance of a new contract, and to do that, we'll say simple storage equals new simple storage, right? And so the new keyword helps us to create an instance of a new contract. And also we say account one equals test account dot get account. So this is provided by Remix Test Framework. So we basically just get an account using this function. Right, pretty much it. Before all function runs, before every other test, like I mentioned previously. Alright, so let's write a test case for set person. So this test checks if the person struct has been initialized. Alright, so it checks if each of the value equal to the value originally set. Okay, so let me comment this out. Basically just start. So of course you want to indeed call the set person function, which is available in the simple storage. So let's pass in the values that we want to store. In this case, let's call this OX Alice. Um, address should be account one. Over 18, let's set true, and the age should be 21. And pretty much it. Now that we have initialized the struct of the person by calling the set person function. So the next thing we want to do is we want to check for each of the values of the struct if indeed they have been initialized. Alright, so to do that, we'll be using this assertion. Um, so there are pretty much different types of assertion, right, provided by the Remix test framework. So the first thing is to assert that the value of each of these properties of the struct equals to say 10 for the name equals OX Alice. So before then, let's quickly get the struct that has been set, right? So let's do person memory and then let's call this person equals, we have a mapping of, let's check our simple storage. We have a mapping of address to person and basically just pass in the address to person with account one. So this basically returns the person struct in this mapping that is mapped to account one, right? Because in the set person function, we have a function to like set or initialize the struct to this mapping based on the key, which is an address, and we basically just initialize all of these values in the struct. Okay, so moving forward, let's now check for each of these values. Let's see assert that person dot the first one is the ID, right? Equals to in this case 10, right? So we say ID should be 10. Now let's call this 11. The actual instances that we expect that person or ID should be 10, but let's set this to 11 with an error message which says ID should be 10. Alright, so this is what we do for practically everything, right? We still want to check for name. So let's set the name to OX Alice, or let's set this OX leak. Name should be OX Alice, right? Also, we have address should be, let's call this address 0, and say the error message should be address should be account 1, right? We also have over 18. Let's set this to false, and we say over 18 should be true. Right? And lastly, we want to set the age, person.age. So let's set this to 21, or in this case 22, and say age should be 22. Alright, so pretty much it's written the test case for our set person function. So this is a unit test basically. So when we run this function, we expect this to fail because of course each of these value take for instance the ID is not 11, the original ID is 10 as we have set here. So when we try to run the function simple storage, right, we should get an error. So this means that the test is working perfectly, right? So let's wait for this. Okay, so I think I have to comment this guys out. I rerun the test again. Okay, so ID should be 10. So we are getting the error message that we did set. So in the case where we change this back to 10, and we change this to OS Alice, we change this to account 1, we also change this to true, then we change this to 21. So now we expect that our test should pass, right? Yeah, so our test is passing. So pretty much it, we have been able to like learn about unit testing in Remix, right? In other videos, right, we'll talk about how to like write test cases in your hard projects, right? Pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.